Hey family, Reverend Russ, back again with another ministry pivot. Super excited that you decided to join us again. I am excited to see all of those who are watching from all over, not just the DMV area, but from all over the country and even from other parts of the world. Super excited for you. Don't forget to go to Ministry Pivot to look at the latest articles. Shout out to my partner Giveify and all the articles we put out through there and looking at their new Faith in Giving report, but also super excited about all of the other conversations I've been able to have with some great leaders who've been able to pivot forward, who've been able to pivot in different ways. And today I talked with a brother, Pastor Tommy Kyllonen, Pastor Urban D, out there in Florida, Orlando, Florida, senior pastor of the Crossover Church. He's doing a great job. He just released a new book called Frames. We talk about the book. We talk about some other stuff that he's even doing in the community. We talk about how he got to where he is in the ministry, taking over from being a youth pastor to now leading and being the senior pastor. We talk about sabbatical. We talk about a lot inside this podcast and inside this pivot. So without me talking anymore, go ahead and let's move forward to my conversation with Pastor Tommy. Welcome back to Ministry Pivot. Super excited that you're here with me. I have good brother, Pastor Tommy Kyllonen, Pastor Urban D with me, man. Pastor Tommy, man, thanks for joining us on today here at Ministry Pivot, man.
Man, it's great to be on here with you and catch up. It's been a minute since we've talked and seen each other. So it's good to reconnect, bro.
Yeah, so I gave some of the accolades in our intro, and I want you to talk a little bit about who Pastor Tommy is. But I want to just hit it real quick and say, man, I've been following your ministry, man, for years, definitely over a decade. Super thankful and excited for what God has done in your life. We had some time to talk a minute ago. You did this thing called Flavor Fest. You still do it, man. And for those of you who don't know what Flavor Fest is, you need to figure it out. You need to go check it out. You need to go Google it. But Flavor Fest, when I was in South Florida over a decade ago, was a super dope culture movement. For those of us in the Christian culture that knew church didn't have to always be hymns, nothing wrong with hymns, but didn't have to always be that. Pastor Tommy Urban D was at the helm of this thing, man. And so I am appreciative, bro, of your ministry. And I wanted to say that at the top of this. But please let people know kind of who Pastor Tommy is, what you're doing out there in Florida, man, and whatever else you got on that. I got other questions, but let's start with that one.
Sure, man. Well, thanks for having me on today. And we're going to talk about pivoting today for real. I've done that at multiple different seasons in my life. And so being in urban ministry, you got to learn to pivot quickly because there's all kinds of challenges and obstacles that you got to navigate regularly and stay connected with the Lord and innovate and all kinds of stuff. So first and foremost, I'm lead pastor at Crossover Church. I've also been an artist, a hip hop artist. Actually, behind me, I'm in my office. Behind me on this wall, that's some of the albums that I've done.
Wow.
That other wall behind me is kind of like the CHH Christian Hip Hop Wall of Fame. A lot of different artists that have been here and ministered at our church and at our conference over the years. And so, pastor, artist, author now. I've written several books and regularly go and speak. And one of my passions is to help other leaders win. And so I do a lot of coaching, created some courses, and speak at a lot of different conferences and churches, and really just help other leaders, just some of the innovation that we've done at our church that's really worked, just to help others, man, because it's kingdom. A lot of times in the corporate world, it's like you have this secret formula and you trademark it and you try to hide the secret recipe from everybody. Now, when it's kingdom, man, we want to share that with each other and let other people take it and make it even better. I'm like, man, take this and remix it and make it better. And so, I've been here at Crossover now for 26 years, bro.
Wow.
For 6 years as the youth pastor. Then I got pushed into being the lead pastor actually in 2002. So this year is my 20th year to be the lead pastor. And when I first took over, there was only about 40 adults Most of them, I was in my 20s. Most of them were younger than me. So it was mostly young adults that were there, part of the youth ministry. And the youth ministry had a couple hundred in it. So our church is kind of upside down. So that's why the leadership was like, you just need to be the pastor. I was like, I'm doing youth ministry, I'm rapping.
Yeah.
The rapping thing, that was what provided for my family because the church couldn't always pay me, small urban church.
Yeah.
But the dopest thing that we had 20 years ago, we didn't have a lot of money, didn't have a lot of people, didn't have a lot of resources, but we had a lot of freedom to be able to reshape and recreate what the urban multi-ethnic church could look like,
That's great.
reaching unchurched and de-churched people. And so we had freedom to try a bunch of new things that had never really been done. There wasn't really a model to look at for that. And so we carefully and prayerfully started to incorporate creativity and music and film and arts and hip hop and dance and, just all kinds of stuff into the mix. Me being an artist, there was a lot of artists around me, and the church began to grow and take off. And so we eventually had to do. You came to the old little building, could pack
Yeah.
maybe about 200 seats in there. We soon had to do 2 services and then 3 services, and it's Florida, so we built an overflow room outside on a patio with ceiling fans and a screen. And then we just really ran out of space, but God needed to continue to mature us and grow us more. And then in 2010, the end of the 2010, we relocated into a former retail box, and we took over an old Toys R Us store and retrofitted 43,000 square feet. So we went from 6,000 square feet to 43,000 square feet.
Wow.
So that was a big, big leap of faith for us as a church. It wasn't easy, a lot of challenges, but God was along the journey, dropping in little by little everything that we needed. And so we've been in this space now over 11 years, and it's been amazing, being able to touch so many lives, so many people. Thousands of people have come to Jesus. We baptized. What's the number now? I think it's 1,629 people
Wow.
have
Praise
been
God.
baptized since we've been in our new facility. We're about to baptize a couple dozen more people this Sunday. It's Baptism Sunday. We love the
Praise
baptism.
God.
So
That's
God
awesome.
has been doing some great things, man. And even through these past couple of years with the pandemic, we've pivoted,
Yeah.
and we're in a great place.
That's great, man. That's great. I got to make it out to the new spot. I
Gotta come
left
see it,
Florida.
bro.
Yeah, I got to come check it. But I don't want to. So I want to talk about the frame. So we're gonna get to this in a second. But I want to jump through something. You said something that I want you to hone in on a little bit for those who are watching, those who are listening. Again, if you're watching and listening, we're gonna put inside the show notes everything that Pastor Tommy is talking about and resources. But Pastor Tommy, you said something that I remembered, but you helped me re-remember it, that you took over from being the youth person,
Yeah.
and you took over a church that wasn't where you are now, right? Can you help the leader,
Yeah.
the pastor who's thinking, even the youth pastor maybe, who needs to be encouraged, because that idea didn't make sense then to a ton of people, but you knew that God was calling you toward this pivot. What are some things that if a leader has something now that doesn't quite gel with what has been done, or doesn't quite gel with what people around them are doing? What are some things that kept you moving to know that God was pushing you in this way? Because I can only imagine what those elder meetings were like.
There was a few times where there was a lot of questions, but
Yeah,
overall there was a lot of trust, because they saw that the youth ministry was working so well, and they saw the kind of leader that I was, even at a very young age. I was 28 when I became the lead pastor. And again, like, my story was, I was never trying to be the lead pastor. I know a lot of people use youth ministry kind of as a stepping stone, but
yeah,
me, I love working with youth and young adults. I love doing my music. My plan was to just do that until I got really old, and so I was like, yeah, maybe I'll be a pastor like later, but I'm still in my 20s now.
yeah,
Really, God, you
yeah,
know. But I think the biggest thing I would say to people out there that are, thinking about pivoting and praying about it, first and foremost, you got to know, like, God is, what do you have for me in this season right now? And if God has that for you, even if it doesn't make sense to other people, even if it might not make sense to you at first, if you got to make sure it's his call, it's his will for this season right now. And if it is, you're going to watch amazing things happen. You're going to watch miraculous things happen. And that's what we watched happen. We took over. I took over and really revitalized the church. The church was only a few years old. It had only been there a couple years before me. So by the time I took over, it was, maybe 7 years old. But, it needed to be revitalized. There really wasn't much vision. There wasn't much structure. In a good way, I was able to just kind of come in and create a lot of that. And it was almost like a church plant that had a little bit of skeleton. And we had a building and there was a few people there. But, because I was obedient and I had a lot of questions. At first, honestly, Russ, I was like, I'll do this for a little while, Lord, till we find the next guy. I'll step in and fill in the gap. And then a couple of months into it, I realized, like, oh, I think we found the next guy.
Wow.
And it's me,
Wow.
And really, once I stepped into that role and God started to use me and we just began to see what God was doing, I was like, okay, like this could be a really special moment where not only for this church and this community and these people, but also, our church was already being looked at as a model because we had already started Flavor Fest and we were looked at as youth ministry. Like, you guys are the model now for urban youth ministry around the country. We have hundreds of kids coming and they're all unchurched. How are you doing this? And so people were hitting us up from all over. And then as I took over as the pastor and the church started to grow on Sundays with all these unchurched people that, didn't fit into the traditional church, we began to realize, like, and people began to speak into my life. Some of my mentors were like, man, God is calling you for this season in the history of the church and church history to do this new thing and create this new movement. And you being the lead pastor is going to propel that. So there can be other churches that are fully kind of like this. And so that was a heavy mantle and scary at first. Once we began to walk in it, and it wasn't just this idea, but we began to see it come to fruition. We're like, okay, God, you're with us. We see this. And I was like, I'm here for it, And so I would just challenge anybody out there. If God's calling you to do something hard, then it's him. If your vision is attainable of you doing it by yourself, then it might not be God's vision. Because many times God's vision for our life is something that it's hard and we got to lean on him. And it's beyond our expertise. It's beyond our experience. It's beyond our training. It's beyond our skill set. And in the middle of all that, God helps us pivot. He helps us innovate. And we discover new things about ourselves and new skills. And God brings new people around us on the team to do other things. And man, God shows up and you can only point to say, man, look at what God did.
Wow, that's great. That's great. That's awesome. And then so you do the youth ministry pieces. It moves into being a senior pastor and now Crossover Church, and you build in this new building. I'm sure we can dig into all of that. Shout out to my brother who's with you, executive pastor, Pastor Christopher. That's my guy. And now you're doing all this, and then into frames. Help me. Why frames? Why this book? Why now?
Yeah, it's funny because I actually came up with the idea for the book when I was on my first sabbatical. I'd never taken a sabbatical. Being in urban ministry, you don't get the luxury to do that for a while, right? Well, finally, the church got stable and grew. And when I hit the 20-year mark, the leadership team was like, hey, you need to take a break. You've been doing, and Pastor Christopher Harris was like, how long when's the last time you took a sabbatical? I'm like, a what? Like, I heard about those. That's what the suburban guys do, maybe. But so anyways, I was on my back in 2016, and I got a cabin for about 4 or 5 days up in the mountains of Pennsylvania, up in the Poconos. I'm originally from Philly. And so went up there and no Wi-Fi, didn't get a signal up there on the mountain. So it was just me, my Bible, some books that I brought, and my journal, and really just began to seek God. And I'd written a few other books before,
Mm-hmm.
and was praying about, God, what's my next message for this next season? And I got literally the framework for frames. And at first I thought it was going to be called lenses. And
Mm.
and so I kind of wrote all these notes down for it, kind of an outline. And God was kind of giving me the heart for it and the framework literally. And then in 2017, I was about to start working on it. And God said, hold up, put that on the shelf for right now. We're going to come back to that. But we did this thing called Love Our City. And that we'll talk about that, I'm sure, in a minute. But that grew into a whole nother thing. And said God was kind of like, you need to write a book about Love Our City first. And so I
Wow.
did that, and then, the pandemic happened. And during the pandemic, God kind of brought the whole thing with frames back to me, because we've all needed to reframe things and
Yeah.
pivot in different areas. And so
Yeah.
it just seemed like the perfect time. And so in 2021, I started working on the book, and God kind of gave me the vision of not lenses, but frames. You can do a lot more creatively with that.
Yeah.
And so I finished the book the very beginning of 2022, and then released it in April of 2022. And I just feel like it's a great book, perfect book for this season that
Yeah.
we're in right now, because the last couple of years, obviously, there's been a lot of crisis in the world. From the virus to this deadly virus to political division to
Yeah.
multiple wars and food shortages and inflation now, and like there's just been like one thing, racial injustice, one thing after the other, that has
True.
kind of just built upon it, that's created this tension. And if you're looking at it through just natural frames, man, it's scary, it's bad, it looks hopeless. But if you have on the God frames, even when there's crisis, you can see opportunity.
Yeah.
And the last couple of years, most people have, in the uncertainty and fear, have kind of fallen back. But then there's this smaller crowd
Yeah.
that is leaned in and has looked for the opportunity in the crisis, and they've thrived.
Yeah.
People have reinvented themselves. People have solved big problems. People have served people in brand new ways. So, there's new businesses that have started. There's churches that have thrived during the season. And those are the ones that had on the optimistic frames, the right kind
Yeah.
of frames. And so that's, one of the things chapter 1 actually talks about, and in chapter 1, the biblical story I kind of, unpack is from Numbers 13 and 14, when the Israelites, they had been freed from over 400 years of slavery,
Mm-hmm.
miraculously walked through the Red Sea, free from the Pharaoh. They're in the wilderness. God's given them food and water, and they're getting to the edge of this land that God promised to them. And God told Moses, send out 12 scouts, one from each tribe, to go check out the land. They come back 40 days later, 12 of them. They're all on the same team, but they all got different frames on.
Yeah.
10 of them had a negative report, a pessimistic report. Only 2 of them had a positive report, an optimistic report. And unfortunately, the crowd went with the pessimistic frames, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so what happened? All of them, if you look at the story in scripture, all of them, everybody over 20 years old, did not make it into the promised land. They had to wander in the wilderness and died in the wilderness. There's only 2 people that were the exception to the rule.
Yeah.
2 people, and that was
Yeah.
Joshua and Caleb.
Yeah.
Those were the 2 scouts that had on the right frames. They were in their 80s by the time that they stepped into the promised land,
Wow.
but that's because they had the right frames on. And
Yeah.
so, there's those 10 people, those 10 scouts with the negative frames. They caused over 1 million people to miss their passport into the promised land. So yeah, be careful who you're listening to, because frames are contagious.
That's good. That's good, and that leads into my next thought. I love the way you've outlined these chapters. I love the way you've outlined these small nuggets throughout the chapters. If y'all don't have your book, you should get your book. He has these little nuggets. I'll make a highlight inside the edit of it. But I love the way you highlighted the chapters. I wanted to ask you, and you jumped into it. So we hear the being optimistic versus being pessimistic. But if there were any other a real quick kind of frame, because I want them to read all 8 chapters. I don't want them to kind of hear this and say, okay, I read the book. This is not the book. This does not, you know how you ever been somewhere on a Saturday and you're called to do like a prayer for people. And when we finish, we say, hey, this does not count for Sunday. Like, you still got to go to church. Like, you still got to get the book, bro, sister. You still got to get it. This doesn't count. But is there another frame that kind of stands out that as you've had the opportunity now to engage people around this book? And we'll talk about the masterclass in a minute too. But as you have the opportunity to engage with people, is there another frame that kind of stands out that you can share with those who are watching, those who are listening, to encourage them in their frame, in their reframing, even right now?
Yeah. So like you said, each one of the chapters is a certain kind of frame versus another kind of frame. And it's encouraging you to go from that natural frame that we have many times as humans in our flesh and pivot to this other frame that God really wants us to see things through. Yeah. So one of the other ones, and I'll share this, I haven't shared this in any interviews, but there was a chapter in the book. It's the 7th chapter, and it wasn't even going to be. It wasn't going to be in the book. My book was already at the editors. The editor was finishing everything up. I was about to get it back, and I felt like something was missing. Yeah. And so God kind of dropped it on me, because it's a big frame that people that people are looking through, and it's lustful frames. Mm-hmm. And we live in a culture that is so driven by sensuality, sexuality, lust. I mean, and most of the social media platforms are full of all kinds of lustful images. And if you're on social media, you got to have a filter when you're on there. You got to be disciplined, because there's just stuff on there that can take you down a rabbit trail if you're not protecting your heart and protecting your eyes. And so I did a chapter on lustful frames versus pure frames. And there's so many people that are caught up in lust and porn and addicted to it. And that's something that has put a lot of people on the bench, or they've benched themselves, thinking like, oh man, God could never use, I just can't get free from it. And they become paralyzed, in the middle of it. And I've talked to so many men and women in my church that have, struggled in these areas, and they feel like they can't get free. And a lot of times we as the church, we don't talk about that enough. Sometimes I think it's almost like that hidden sin. It's embarrassing. And we'll talk about it once in a while, maybe, but I think it's something that we got to bring to light more and help people and let people know, man, it's possible to be free from this. God can purify your heart and your mind. Literally, neuroscience is discovering a lot of new things about our brains and the way they're wired. We can literally rewire our brains by the things that we're looking at and the way that we think. And so if your frames are always looking at lustful kind of things, it creates pathways in your mind. Talk about that a little bit in the book too. But actually talk about in that chapter about how to have the best sex ever. And I just so yeah. Get it and check it out. I know that chapter in particular, I know has helped a lot of people, and they've talked about it. And then obviously there's a master class. There's a set that go along with, and that's also an additional help.
No, that's great. And I'm gonna ask you about master class in a second, but I want to just piggyback on the piece. And I think that lustful versus pure. And I think what's happened, I know my wife and I talk about it all the time, is there are certain images now that are becoming so common to us on TV, and there are certain relationships that they'll put on commercials now, and certain award shows will pop up. So like I have a daughter now who's 7, going to be 8, and we have to guard, but then we have to have conversations that honestly I didn't think my parents probably had with me when I was 8, because of what's out there. And I think it adds into that. So I think that's a piece. So chapter 7 is definitely what the whole book is frames that we need to look at. But I'm glad that you were able to put that in, because you're totally right. We don't talk about it as much as we ought to. So Pastor Tommy, that those frames are super awesome. I really hope the people get it. But tell us a little bit more, because you didn't just stop at the book. You went further with the masterclass. And the masterclass helps. Now, are those like videos from you? How does that work out?
Yeah, so it did kind of a unique packaging piece. I'm creating out box, so I had to put the book in a box. So the book
I got it too, brother. I got it. I got mine.
man. So it comes in a custom box. The book is in there. There's actually a pair of frames in there too. This is my brand, Eternal. And so I got a pair of Eternal frames in there. There's a CD in there. It's a surprise CD from Reach Records, a vintage one. There's some stickers and stuff and some of them. But then there's, at the end of chapter 1, there is a QR code to a masterclass. The masterclass is $99, but you get a password if you get the book. And so you get it included for free. And so you can type that in and you can log in, and there's 8 videos. They match with the 8 chapters, and each video is about 12 to 15 minutes long, professionally shot on different locations. We did a couple from a skyscraper downtown.
Okay.
And couple of cool things. There's a couple interviews that are even on a few of them as well, with some people that are part of my church that have reframed in some different areas. And so, yeah, and there's even some notes you can download if you want to, and then print them out, and you can fill in some blanks. And then there's a discussion guide, so you can watch the videos, the masterclass with your small group or with your family, with a couple friends, or you can watch it yourself. A lot of people watch it themselves as well, and it's on demand, so it's totally at your own pace. It's on our website. It's on a platform that we set up through our website. And so that's an added bonus. But really, it's kind of like experience. You read the book, you can watch the videos as well. You can discuss it with some other people. And as an artist, I try to, make it an experience. So it's not just a regular book, but even the packaging, to me, that's like, I love packaging and dope stuff, creative artwork, and have a great graphic designer that I work with. Shout out to my man Jose Marrero. And we did hats for it. We had some shirts and all the different stuff that kind of goes around frames for it to really impact people. We did an 8-week series at my church. We just ended it back in the beginning of June. So we did an 8-week series and walked through the series in each week as well. That's on our church YouTube channel, Crossover 813, if you want to check any of that out. But I've been speaking at a lot of different churches in the last couple months and doing a message from frames. So yeah, it's been incredible.
No, that's great. That's great. And the packaging was dope. When it came, I was super hyped on it, and I got my frames out of the package already. My daughter wants them. She's trying to run around with them. But I want to ask this. So with the frames and from where I sit at my church, shout out my pastor, Pastor Watley, Kingdom Fellowship. But I'm thinking, even how could churches get this around for like their small groups? Is that how do you work that?
Yeah, absolutely. There's several churches that have connected with me that have wanted to get some books in bulk. You can get the books through our website. Yes, it's available on Amazon, the book by itself, but you don't get the box and the sunglasses and all the the cool stuff. If you want to get the full thing from us, you could get it. It's translationleadership.com.
Okay.
Translation with a Z.
Okay.
So
I'm gonna put it in the show notes. No worries.
Show notes, translationleadership.com/frames.
Okay.
And that's where you can get the frames book from. And we got a bunch of people that have ordered directly from the website. We ship it out to you guys. We do shipping every single week. And we've got several churches that have said, hey, we want to get 10 books for our small group, or we want to get, and we'll work out, a special price for you if you want to get it in bulk. So just, you can email us through the website and connect with us as well. But then, yeah, you guys can. Everybody that has a book will be able to log in and get access and
log in, and then they can do with the code at the end of the chapter. They can all do that masterclass kind of together.
Yep.
That's
Yeah.
dope. Yeah, that's dope. That's dope. I love that idea. I love that thought. I want to ask you. So I'm going to put all of the. I want to go back to something you said earlier because I don't want to miss it. The love piece, the serving of your community. I want
Yeah.
to ask you about that. But I also want to ask you about. I'm gonna put all of this inside the show notes with the resources and all of that in there, and your website, the church's website. But are there any other resources as people are trying to reframe, as people are trying to pivot? Obviously, they need to get the Frames book, but are there any other resources that you would recommend that would help encourage as our brothers, our sisters are watching us, listening to us, and they're trying to reframe? They're trying to get their frames right.
Yeah. I'll give a book. I'm actually finishing it up right now. I just took a vacation and had some great time to read. It's a great book. It's called Confronting Christianity. And it's got 12 big questions that our world is kind of struggling with right now. We know during the pandemic, there's been a lot of talk about deconstruction of people's faith. And some of that's been good because then they can reconstruct it because they had some things that they were believing theologically maybe that weren't totally biblical. But on the other hand, you have some people that have they've got so frustrated with the politics and with the injustice and the way that the church as a whole maybe has addressed some of the stuff. It's just been kind of crazy. Some people have just gave up on the church or gave up on Christianity and deconstructed, and they're, following other false religions, or they don't know what they believe right now. And so that book is really good at answering some challenging questions that a lot of people have had the last couple of years about Christianity, and many times not really doing the legwork and the homework to look at in context, what did the Bible really say? So it talks about in that book, it talks about does Christianity encourage diversity or not? Because it can look like it doesn't. One of the chapters is does the Bible lift women up? That's a question. Does the Bible endorse slavery? So there's a lot of big questions that it has in there that Christianity has been confronted with. Does the Bible line up with science? Does it, all these things that are continually attacking Christianity. And a lot of times the average Christian is not theologically very versed in those questions, and they can see a YouTube video or they can have a conversation with somebody and they can walk away from that with big questions, and they can begin to question their faith.
Wow.
Because they haven't studied and read and they don't know the facts. And so, the book was really some good stuff, and really even encouraging that the initial chapter of the book, the intro of the book talked about how it can feel in the West that Christianity is declining, and it is in a lot of ways, but overall, globally, Christianity is growing and religion is growing globally. And in the next 40 years, the planet is going to become actually more religious than non-religious. It could seem like it's going the other direction.
Yeah.
But it actually, all the studies and sociologists and, it's actually going to become people that, and unfortunately, a lot of it is, there's going to be the Muslim faith is going to grow a lot.
Yeah.
Christianity is going to grow a little bit. But a lot of it is going to grow through just repopulation. A lot of people that don't have faith or don't have much faith, they're not having kids.
Wow.
But it's not just that.
Yeah.
There's some people that are going to convert that grew up non-religious and are going to convert as well because they're just looking for answers, looking for hope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's okay. Well, I'm definitely, I'll link that in the show notes. And that sounds like it's an opportunity for churches like your church, for other churches who are, pushing to show Christ in a different way, in a more creative way that folk may be able to reframe, to pivot in their own way. I want to ask you before we get going, because I know those who are watching, those who are listening, they got it's a timer on us, Pastor. It's a timer on us.
Sir, I know.
But I want to ask, because I heard you say it, and I want to learn more about it. The survey that you did after, you said it was something around love. Help us. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So we started to do this thing in 2017 called Love Our City.
Okay.
And we've always been big on outreach and evangelism. That's a big part of my heart. And I would get frustrated because normally we do a lot of outreach stuff on Saturdays, right? We do a back to school jam, we do a food giveaway, we do a Christmas event, and we'll have a couple hundred people come and serve, but that's only a smaller percentage of the church. And so, but as I began to think about it, I'm like, man, a lot of people work Saturday. A lot of people, their kids have sports stuff Saturdays. A lot of people are traveling Saturdays. Some people, it's their only day off. They ain't going to do nothing no matter what you do. So by the end of the day, there's a lot of people that can't do something for a couple of hours on a Saturday morning.
Yeah.
You know? And so we said, man, we want to create more opportunities for our people to serve and really learn to love their neighbors. They love themselves, like Jesus said. And so we did an entire week. And I remember I came into my staff meeting. I said, guys, I want us to do an entire week of serving. And we're going to get 500 people to serve that week. And we're going to do 50 projects. So my staff was like, 500? We never had 500 people do anything at one time, you know. And I'm like, we are this time, you know. And they're like, 50 projects, what are we going to do? So we got out a whiteboard and we said, well, who lives in this community? In a 3 to 5 mile radius around the church, who lives there? We started a list of people groups because we want to love all of our city, right?
Yeah.
So college students, because we had a big university 2 miles away. USF. We have business people. We have young families. We have a lot of people in poverty. We have homeless people. We have seniors. We have immigrants. So we just started going down this list of all these different people groups. And we said, let's dream together and create projects, community service projects that will connect with each one of those groups. And so we created three kinds of projects: service projects, cut people's grass, paint houses, clean yards, sweat equity. Pay it forward projects that reaches all kinds of demographics. We're in the laundromat paying for everybody's laundry. You know, we bring $5 of quarters, you know, and people are just like, they're like, what? You know, like, oh, you need to come down to the laundromat. Well, soon the laundromat's packed because the word gets out in the hood, right?
Yeah.
But 300 feet away from the laundromat, right down the block, our neighborhood's gentrifying a little bit. We got a Starbucks. And so we're buying everybody's coffee at Starbucks, totally different demographic of people at Starbucks than versus the laundromat. Yeah. And a lady gets out of her car, we give her the card and a gift bag, and she just starts bawling. And she's like, man, I've been having a panic attack in my car. I'm going through all this stress and pressure. I'm asking God, is he here? I need a sign. And then I get out and here you guys are. We got to pray with her and minister to her. They're ministering to people at the laundromat while they're waiting for their laundry. And it's just amazing stuff happens through these pay it forward projects. We give groceries to over 2,000 homes. We just knock on the door. We call it knock, knock groceries. And they're so excited, especially now with the price of groceries, right?
Yeah.
So, then the third kind of project, we do appreciation lunches. So we feed every teacher, every firefighter, every police officer, every clinic worker in our district. So we do about 1,000 catered lunches with our restaurant partners that we bless them, and they give us a discount, but we're blessing them as well.
Yeah.
It's just amazing. And so we touch, man, like 20,000 people that week.
Wow.
Through all these different projects. And by the way, that first year we didn't have 500 people, we had 600 people sign up.
Wow.
We had to add projects. Second year, it grew even more. We did 1,000 people that came. We did 100 projects. Third year, right before the pandemic, we did 152 projects. With 1,500 people. And by that year, we had a bunch of people serving that weren't even from our church. We're like, invite your unchurched friend that won't come to church with you. Invite them to come to the Love Our City and go serve, and they get a free T-shirt. Don't even tell them it's with your church. It's Love Our City.
Yeah.
You know? And they come and sign up. They have to check in our lobby. That's where they get their shirt. And we have a DJ spinning. There's all these people all getting pictures with their group. We send them out. And it's just been so amazing. And so God, you know, put it on my heart because all these people started like calling us. I actually got a Love Our City shirt on today. I didn't even plan that.
That's cool. Yeah.
One of the T-shirts. We put all the sponsors on the back with their logos. But we had all these people calling us to say, "Man, teach us how to do it." So I ended up writing a 30-day devotional book, and this came out in 2018. This was the book that I came out with instead of frames back then. And so our church went through this, and we created a box kit. You know, I like boxes.
Yeah, no, I see now.
Box kit, and there is a thumb drive in there that has the details on how to love our city. There's a sermon series, small group video curriculum. There's a fundraising guide. All the artwork is on here. There's a project template of all the projects we did, and then a template for you to plug yours in. I'm still an MC, so there's a lot in there as well. There's a leader's guide in here that gives all the details on how to set it up, raise the money, train your volunteers, do all the projects, all that stuff. So this box kit, over 300 churches have gotten one of these in the past couple of years. And we were selling it at one point, but now we actually give this away. If you got to buy 10 books. So with the 10 books for your small group or for maybe your leadership team, if you want to try it out, you get the box kit with all the details on how to do it included for free. And so then we got a lot of churches that have gotten this and then later said, hey, man, we want to send our whole church through this. We want to buy 100 books or 200 books. Yeah. And you can get books at bulk and take your whole church through it. And it's really powerful. We do that every year with a book, not with Love Our City. We did Love Our City before, but we find when our church goes through a book together and we're doing some video curriculum in small groups, it really helps the church grow and people are connected and talking about it. So yeah, it's been amazing. So last thing I'll say about Love Our City, it all culminates with everybody we touched that week. We just simply give them an invite to the Love Our City party, and that's church that Sunday.
That's good.
And we'll see hundreds of people as visitors that Sunday. And we usually see around 100 salvations that Sunday. And then we do water baptisms the next Sunday. And so it's just been such a powerful thing. And there's lots of people that are part of our church family that originally we can trace back to. It's because they got touched through Love Our City. And so, man, our world needs love more than ever before. And we got to reshape and pivot and recreate the narrative on what the church is about. And if we're out in the community serving and loving on people, that's how relationships really form and get built.
Yeah, no, that is awesome. And I'm glad you shared about that. And where can churches get the Love Our City? Where can we order? Do we order through Crossover Church? Is Love Our City its own website? What is that?
The kit at loveourcitybook.com.
Awesome. Okay.
loveourcitybook.com. Okay. It's got all the details on there. You can check it out. And it's if you have Right Now Media and you're watching this, the video curriculum is actually on Right Now Media as well. They picked it up last year in 2021. So a lot of churches got connected to it through having Right Now Media.
Awesome. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm definitely going to link that in the show notes, man. Pastor Tommy, I appreciate you spending a couple moments with us, man.
Thank you for having me today, bro.
No, of course, man. And I'm super excited about the book. I'm super excited about the extra. The Love Our City wasn't even on our thing, but I'm excited about that too. And churches being involved in that. And hopefully those of you who are watching, those of you who are listening, you are inspired to reframe, to shift some frames as well today at your church, at your job. Looking forward to seeing how you use this pivot to pivot you forward. Because as we always say, this is your season of opportunity. God bless.
Man, I hope you were encouraged by that conversation, by that pivot from Pastor Tommy Kyllonen. I am super excited about all that he's doing there. You heard us spend a lot of time at the end talking about Love Our City. I was talking the other day with my partner, my friend over at Givelify again, their Faith and Giving report. And one of the things that was highlighted in that report is that our members, our parishioners, those who love the church, want to see the church serve and doing well. And Pastor Tommy, I think, is on to something with the Love Our City because he's been able to impact thousands and even hundreds of thousands probably by this time of people through the Love Our City initiative. And I believe that other churches should get up to be a part of it. So don't forget to go into the show notes to download that information, to contact his church about that information. Don't forget to just go on to Ministry Pivot about all of the other pivots that are coming that have been passed, and even those that are going to be coming forward. And don't forget that this truthfully is your season of opportunity. All you have to do is pivot forward. God bless.